You replayed the conversation afterward. Maybe in the car on the way home or lying in bed that night, turning it over in your mind, trying to figure out what it meant. She asked you something, something that seemed ordinary on the surface, something easy to dismiss as small talk or casual curiosity, but something about the way she asked it stayed with you. The way she leaned in slightly, the way her eyes held yours a half second longer than they needed to, the way she actually waited for your answer, not just as a formality, but as if it genuinely mattered to her what you were going to say. And now you are here, wondering if you read it correctly, wondering if what you felt in that moment was real or wishful, wondering whether she is actually interested or whether you are constructing meaning out of something that meant nothing. Here is what most people don't realize. The questions a woman asks you when she is interested are almost never the questions that look like interest on the surface. She is not going to walk up to you and ask whether you are single or tell you directly that she wants to know more about you. That is not how genuine attraction communicates itself. Genuine attraction, especially in its early stages, moves in oblique lines. It approaches sideways. It wraps real curiosity inside questions that could plausibly be explained away as ordinary conversation. And if you don't know what you are actually listening for, you will miss it almost every time. Stay with me here. The first question to pay attention to is the one about your past. Not your romantic past specifically, not yet, but your origins. Where did you grow up? What was it like? Did you enjoy it? These questions feel generic until you understand what is behind them. A woman who is not interested in you does not need to construct a picture of who you were before you became who you are now. She doesn't need the context. She doesn't need the geography of your formation. But a woman who is beginning to feel something wants to understand not just who you are today, but how you became that person. She is reaching backward into your history because she is already, on some level, building a larger picture of you inside her mind. That is not what people do with strangers. That is what people do with someone they are beginning to see as significant. Think about it. You do not ask people about their childhood unless you are curious about them in a way that goes beyond the surface. The second question is subtler. It is the one about what you do when you are not working, not performing, not being publicly visible. What do you actually enjoy? What do you do when no one is watching? What fills your time when it is entirely your own? This question is looking for the private version of you, the unguarded version, the real one. And the reason she wants that version is because that is the version she would potentially be close to. She is not asking what you do. She is asking who you are when the performance stops. And that is not a question you ask someone you are indifferent to. Now we move deeper. The third question arrives in many different forms, but always carries the same underlying energy. It is the question about what you think, not what you know, not what you have done, but what you actually think about something. Your opinion, your perspective, your inner reasoning. She might ask what you think about a movie or a situation or a piece of news or something abstract. The specific subject is almost irrelevant. What matters is that she is inviting your mind into the conversation. She wants to see how you think, how you process, how you form and hold a perspective. This is because attraction for a woman is rarely just physical. It is intellectual and emotional. She needs to know that your inner world is somewhere she would want to spend time, and the only way to find that out is to ask you inside it. What most people don't realize is that this question, on the surface, the most intellectual of all, is actually one of the most emotionally revealing. Because when she asks what you think, she is telling you that your inner life matters to her. The fourth question is the one about your people. Who are your closest friends? What are they like? How long have you known them? This is not small talk. This is research. The people a man chooses to keep close tell a woman more about his character than almost anything he could say directly about himself. She knows that people become like the people they surround themselves with. She knows that loyalty, depth, and emotional maturity often show up first in the quality of someone's friendships. And she knows that a man who has sustained meaningful long-term friendships is a man who knows how to show up consistently for people he cares about. She is evaluating whether that is you. And the fact that she is evaluating it at all means she is already considering the possibility that you might matter to her. There is something deeper happening here. The fifth question is the one about your future, not in a transactional way, not in the way someone checks whether you have a plan or whether you are financially stable, but genuinely. Where are you headed? What are you building toward? What does the life you want actually look like? This question, when it comes from a woman who is interested, comes from a specific place. She is holding it up against her own future and seeing whether there is any overlap. She is not necessarily thinking about you together in any concrete way, not yet. But she is noticing whether the direction you are moving in is one she could imagine sharing or at least respecting. It is a form of compatibility testing that happens long before the word compatibility is ever spoken. We'll come back to what that means for you. But before we go there, consider the sixth question. She asks whether you are close to your family, and she listens very carefully to how you answer. Not just what you say, but the texture of your response. Whether there is warmth there or distance, whether you speak about them with respect or with resentment, whether the way you talk about the people who shaped you suggests that you know how to maintain important bonds even when those bonds require patience, sacrifice, and the willingness to show up imperfectly. She is not looking for a perfect family history. She is looking for evidence of emotional continuity, of someone who can sustain love across time and difficulty. And the reason she needs that evidence is because she is, consciously or not, wondering whether you are someone who could sustain love with her. This is where things become interesting. The seventh question is one that many men hear, but few correctly interpret. It is the question about how you handle difficulty. What do you do when things go wrong? How do you respond to stress, to failure, to the unexpected? She might phrase it around a specific scenario or ask it more abstractly. But the core of the question is always the same. She wants to know what you are like when life is not cooperating. Because she understands, in a way many men underestimate, that who someone is in the easy moments is not who they actually are. Who someone is when everything is falling apart, that is the person she would actually be living alongside. The eighth question is the one she almost doesn't ask, the one she circles around several times before finally landing on it. It is some version of, have you been in love before? What was it like? What happened? This question carries enormous vulnerability on her part, even though it is directed at you. She is opening a door to an emotionally significant territory, and the fact that she is willing to open that door in your presence tells you something important. She does not ask this of everyone. She asks it of people she is beginning to feel safe with, people she is beginning to trust with a part of herself that is usually kept behind a closed door. What happens next is important. The ninth question is about what you are proud of, not your resume, not your achievements in the way you would list them professionally, but what you actually feel proud of when you reflect honestly on your life. This question is looking for your values, because what you are proud of reveals what you believe matters. It reveals your moral architecture. And a woman who is beginning to feel drawn to you needs to know whether your architecture is one she can stand inside of and feel at home. This is not a compatibility checklist. This is her trying to determine whether the things that feel important to her also feel important to you. The 10th question, and perhaps the most telling of all, is the one about what you are still figuring out, what you are still working on, what remains unresolved in your understanding of yourself or your life. This question is the most intimate because it requires you to admit incompleteness. And the reason she asks it is not to expose weakness, but to look for self-awareness. The man who can sit comfortably with his own unfinished edges, who can name what he doesn't yet know about himself without shame or defensiveness, is a man who has done real work on himself. And that kind of self-awareness is among the rarest and most attractive qualities she will ever encounter. Now we arrive at the deepest truth beneath all 10 of these questions. And this is the part that reframes everything. Each of these questions, taken individually, could be explained away as simple conversation. But here is what matters. It is not any one question. It is the pattern. It is the fact that she is building something across the course of her questions. Each answer you give adds a layer to the image she is constructing of you. And you do not spend that kind of effort building an image of someone who means nothing to you. You do not invest that level of sustained curiosity in someone you are simply passing time with. The questions are the architecture of her interest. They are how she builds a space inside herself where you can potentially belong. And this changes the question you should be asking yourself. because you came here wondering whether she is interested. But the deeper question, the one that actually serves you, is this. Are you paying enough attention to be worth her curiosity? Are you answering her questions in a way that opens a real door to who you are? Are you present enough, self-aware enough, genuine enough to give her something real to build with? Because the truth is, the questions are the easy part. What you do with them is everything. This understanding is only the beginning. Stay close.